Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Liz from West Star Tarot, and today I thought I'd do a video response to the lovely Natalia over at Ouroboros. She has come up with a number of great tags lately, and I did do the this is the 7 guides. I did do the Council of 7, and now I want to do the 7 guides. So I took a look at my Oracle collection and the ones that I use the most for guidance. And this is what I came up with. So the first guidance I might need would be from the cosmos. I would need the advice of the moon in particular, and the planets and the sun, and all of that we get when we study astrology. And so for that, I depend on guidance daily from The Living Wheel by Patrick Fogarty. This is one of my favorite oracles, and I do use it on a daily basis. And you will hear as I talk about the oracles that I'm using for guidance and as my guides. I do travel a bit for work, and so one of the things that is really helpful is if I can have a guide to come with me when I travel. And the Living Wheel comes with me every time I travel. One of the first things I do after I unpack is to set up my altar, and right at the top of my altar are the cards from the Living Wheel. So what I usually do here at home and when I'm on the road is I will take out the sun and the sign that the sun is in, and so we know now that that's Sagittarius. And then I will also do the moon, and currently we are in a new moon, and that is in Capricorn. And then we have the Wheel of the Year or the seasonal cards, and so I will take out the Earth card and then the season. And there are 8 seasonal cards, all beautifully painted by Patrick, where he lives up in Acadia in the Bar Harbor area in Maine. This is truly one of my favorite and most useful guiding decks. So as I also did with the Council of 7, there are entities that I rely on for guidance. One of which, as a practicing herbalist, that is really, really important to me are the plant spirits. And so I would want to have, in my 7 guides, I would want to have a plant oracle. And so I picked this one. This is created, the paintings and the guidebook are created by Lisa over at My Soulflower. This is a gorgeous deck. And again, it's pretty easy to travel with because all I need is this box. Because on the bottom of the cards, as you'll see, there's the keyword and then a little bit more message from the plant. And I just pulled out my favorites or plant spirits that have come to me in either my dreams or in meditations or when I've made flower essences and that I work with on a regular basis. So calendula is one. Mugwort. Mugwort grows all over my yard. It's actually kind of invasive, but it's a beautiful, powerful herb, and I pick her on the full moon in August, and then I use her to make bundles with for herbal cleansing. And also you can make dream pillows or just put some mugwort under your pillow. It's a powerful, powerful herb for dreams. Nettle. Nettle is one of the first plant spirits to pop back up in the spring in my neck of the woods. And nettle is a powerful healer. In the spring, she can be steamed and eaten as a steamed green. She can be made as an infusion and drunk as a tea. You can make nettle honey. You can do all kinds of things. Nettle tincture, all kinds of things with nettle. Bee balm. Bee balm is really an important plant for me because she attracts hummingbirds, and hummingbirds hummingbird is one of my guides, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And then these two plant spirits, beach rose, Rosa rugosa, and white pine. I'm doing a lot of work with both these plants right now, and part of it came out of using this deck. So I'm lucky because both grow prolifically in my yard and in my area. And so right now, as we are coming into the colder or winter time of the year, I am drinking on a regular basis white pine infusion. And so I go out and I sing to the white pine and ask her if I can use her in my medicine making. And then I come back inside and use the pine needles to make a really great tasting infusion. And what came as a really interesting fact to me, but I shouldn't be surprised as I am an herbalist, white pine is very, very rich in vitamin C and vitamin A and some other micronutrients. And so in the wintertime in New England, you can't go out and pick an orange. And so back in the day, before we had the luxury of going to a grocery store to get fruits from all over the world, white pine would have been a traditional tea drunk by, in this area where I live, the Wampanoag tribe. And so this is a really healing medicine, and it's preventive and tastes delicious. The other plant spirit that I've been working with quite a bit, and because of the work with this deck, is a beach rose or Rosa rugosa. And this is a lovely, I mean, you can smell when the Rosa rugosa is in bloom. I just step outside my door and I can smell it. And I'll tell you, if you go to the beach in June or July when this plant is in full bloom, there's just something intoxicating about the scent of the ocean mingled in with the scent of beach rose. And so because of my work with Rosa rugosa this year, I decided that I would try to make a rose petal elixir. And this is just the first jar. I made many jars of it because the rose petals were so prolific this year. And what you do is you pick the rose petals on a daily basis and put them in a glass mason jar, and then cover them with either vegetable glycerin or you can use honey. I use glycerin. Look at the color. When you strain out the rose petals, they are no longer that beautiful, vibrant color. They are almost white. And you can see that is because all of the color and the medicine from the rose petals has gone into this elixir. It is so delicious. I cannot begin to tell you. And it's really interesting when you taste something that you're normally used to smelling. And so think about that. We smell, especially the wild roses, they have such an intoxicating fragrance. And then you taste it and it's like, oh, wow, this tastes like roses smell. And so it's like you're tasting a smell, and it's a very interesting thing to have your senses sort of get mixed up like that. So that is something that I'm going to be able to continue to work with all winter because I have made the beautiful rose petal elixir. Another guide that I would want to have would be the Goddess. And this is a beautiful oracle deck by Lisa de St. Croix, who is the creator and artist for Tarot de St. Croix, which is one of my top 5 tarot decks. I use that deck all the time and I just love it. It's a beautiful deck. And this is a beautiful oracle. I picked out a few of the goddesses that I've been working with lately. And the first one is Mawu. And this is Guadalupe. And Corn Mother. Caradwin. Nut, Durga, and Pele. This deck is so colorful and so vibrant. And on the back of each card is a poem from the goddess, and then there's a keyword. And so for Guadalupe, we have healing. Seek into the sacred heart. Feel the healing power of love. And so I think this card actually pairs really well with this one. And so I will often work with these two guides together because they're both about heart healing and love. Another guide that is important to me is guidance from the animal spirits. And so for that, I rely on the Messenger Oracle by Sandra Kuntz. This is a beautiful, beautiful deck. And I love working with this deck. I love having the square deck. This deck also combines well with the Invoking the Goddess by Lisa. And these cards are beautiful. There's 44 of them, 43 of them. Here we have the Journey, Fertile Ground, Creative Force, and this one is, I think, my favorite, A Message of Love with Hummingbird. I am also currently working with and meant to take off my altar over there in the back, but forgot to, a card called Evolution, and it is a jaguar and a hummingbird, and it's all about balancing masculine and feminine energy, and that is something that I am starting to work with now, but I have decided to make that my personal growth work for 2020. So I am completely out of sync in terms of recognizing, honoring my masculine side of myself. And I have a lot of anger towards the patriarchy and toxic masculinity, and it's something that I need to reconcile, and that I also need to not blame all men for the patriarchy and toxic masculinity, because that's problematic, because it isn't all men. And so I know that this is work I have to do, and that card was like, boom, a lightning bolt. When I pulled that card and I started to read in the guidebook about it, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Okay, this is the work you have to do. And so that is what I'm working on. Another deck that I love, and that is one of my guides, is the Seeds of Shakti Oracle by Sharon Basanti. This is a lovely, lovely deck. Another really colorful, beautiful deck. And I particularly like it because it has chakra cards. Beautiful, colorful cards. And what I'll do periodically, maybe once a season, maybe more often if I feel the need, is I will put out the 7 chakra cards, and then I will take a tarot deck and pull 7 cards to go with each one of the chakra cards. And I look at the tarot card that's with the chakra card, and I make a determination. Is that chakra in balance or not? And depending on what the card is, I figure out what is the work I need to do with that particular chakra. And I was inspired to do that by Christine Hilliard over at Christine and Celeste YouTube channel. She has a few videos on that, and I don't think she used chakra cards, but I really like that because it adds, it helps guide me. This deck also has a few moon cards, and so I love having that. And it also has some gods and goddesses. It has my beloved Ganesh. And then, who wouldn't want an oracle that has a chai card? So this is a beautiful deck, and it has a really well-rounded and interesting mix of topics in the cards. And so again, it's a great deck for when I travel. And so I also think it's important to have a deck that's going to be in your face, and a deck that's not going to sugarcoat things, a deck that calls you out. And for that purpose, the guide I use is L'Oracle de Reflet by Celia Melville. I love this deck. It is stunningly beautiful. And Celia made a YouTube video a while back showing the process that she used. And what she did was she made an infusion or a tea out of black walnut hulls, and then she would dip material in to come up with sort of a tea stain effect. And then she would let that, let's see if this, here's a card that shows it. She would let that tea stain speak to her intuitive self, and she would pen and ink around it. So this is the card Fear, and you can see the pattern on it from the walnut infusion. And then Celia drew this card Fear. She has animals, seasons, all kinds of things. Here we have the fox. Another thing I really like about this deck is that it is in both French and English. And man, I have been struggling practically my whole life to learn how to speak French. And so I tried to read the guidebook on the French side first to see if I can understand it. Here you can see this is Shadow, the Phoenix. I think this is a gorgeous card to represent winter. Here we have Conflict. The Hermit, beautiful rendition of the Hermit. Slow Down. I love this one. Edge of the Forest. Letting Go. I don't know if you can see the hand is letting go. Look out for this one. Fingers crossed. This one is Lie. Construction. Break. Community. And Conditioning. So that's just a few of the cards from that deck. And I find that is not a hug deck. It's a deck that guides me and gives me guidance when I really need to hear the honest truth, not sugar-coated. And then I chose this deck, the Avalonian Oracle, as the voice of the ancestors. This is another beautiful deck, and I really love this deck, and I use it when I need to get in touch with my ancestors or when I need to hear ancestral advice. It is a feminist deck. The author and artist have included 13 cards to represent the 13 cycles of the moon. The artwork is stunning. The guidebook is incredible. The women who created this deck are Welsh, and so there's a lot of Welsh influence in this deck. And I do not speak Welsh, and sometimes I have a hard time in my head pronouncing the words. But here we see This is Hearthkeeper, Guardian. I love this one. Healer. You can see she's got the herbs around her. Ritualist. And a few other beautiful cards. There's many beautiful cards in this deck. This one I love. It's called the Three Cauldrons. The beautiful apple. This is about the sisterhood and the silver wheel. So that's a great deck when I want to do ancestral work or when I want messages or guidance from the ancestors. I do take that deck out. So that is it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I have, 7 decks, yeah. So again, thank you, Natalia, for another great idea for a video. And I hope you enjoyed hearing about my decks.